We have no doubt.
Thank you.
Tear them up, break a leg.
Friendly reminder before I broadcast this, please be mindful of muting when you're not going to be speaking. And then when you hear me mention about the chat to the students, all panelists and attendees. Friendly reminder before I broadcast that. Oh, someone opened up YouTube. I hear myself back. All right, so I'm going to broadcast and let the students in the room since I know we're live streaming on YouTube right now. All right, we have students coming into the Zoom webinar. Hi, students. This is Kathleen. I'm here to make sure that Zoom is running smoothly for you. Before we get started, just a quick note. So students are with us. You see a chat icon. When you click on it, if you can do me a favor, in the to field, hit the drop down, select all panelists and attendees, just like you see Hector saying hello. I will also say hello. Tommy, I see you messaging as well. I see some students, let us know where you're joining from. And we'll just kind of give a moment to just let students in. Looks like we already got a lot of them with us. So thanks for taking the time. So let me just go ahead and spotlight Hector's video. So Hector, as usual, just give it a few seconds and then you're welcome to take it away.
All right, well, hello everybody and welcome. My name is Hector Verdugo. I'm the Senior Vice President of Admissions for Academy of Art University here in San Francisco, California, USA. I see a ton of you joining us, so I'll just give it a few minutes for everybody to get into the room. Hello out there from San Diego. I see some Texas is in the house. We have Illinois. Where's everybody from the Tri-Valley? Hello, Sarah. Thanks for being here. Philadelphia is here tonight. Nebraska. Do we have any international students here today? Jamaica, Guatemala, Phoenix, Peru, Tennessee, Brazil, Rhode Island, Southern California, more Texas here, Sydney, Australia, Las Vegas. All right, looks like we have a mixed crowd here. People, Asia's here tonight. I see that. Michigan. All right, hello out there, Dylan in Honolulu. Love to go visit you sometime, buddy. Sri Lanka's here. All right. So I just want to remind everybody while the room is just adding people, hello out there in Canada. While everybody's just take a quick second, make sure that what we're going to be using is the chat feature to answer questions and interact with you. So if you can, please just make sure that you select all panelists and attendees. This way we can see this and we can interact with you. So to go ahead and get started, hey, hello out there in India as well, Oregon. I see some different places popping up. Awesome. California, Bay Area. So, hey, listen, what I want to do is if you could take a quick second and pause the chat, what I'd like to do is make sure that I drop the RSVP links for the next upcoming events. So if anybody out there is interested in how to become an online student, we'll be running an event here on Thursday at 5 p.m. It's an online education event. It's going to teach people how our online programs work, how everything is done here at the Academy, how we build our courses custom. So please feel free to RSVP for that. And then next Tuesday, our next workshop will be focused on sculpting the human head in clay. This will be held at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So the Thursday event is Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. This one is 7 p.m. All the information's on the RSVP links, but if you'd like to join us for that, that'll be a really fun, exciting workshop as well. We have a workshop every single Tuesday, all through July and August. So please feel free to check the pages and follow along. Feel free to join us. So for everybody out there today, if you're using any social media, if you're using Instagram and you want to take the time to post any of your drawings, your artwork, anything you've been working on, we created a hashtag called #ArtUFreeWorkshop. I'm going to throw that in the chat a few times, but feel free to post and tag any of your work that you like to show off. The school will be checking out your work there. We want to make sure to reshare, repost different things that we see. So anything that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to see what you can do and what you can bring to the table. So anyway, it looks like we have over 200 plus people out there right now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. We have an all-star team here today to host this awesome workshop with you. So what I'd like to do is just go down the line and do some quick introductions to who's here with us today. Joining us is faculty member Sean Featherstone. He's currently our first year studies coordinator at the School of Animation and Visual Effects, where he's taught since 2003. His own area of expertise is animation, pre-production, and storyboarding. He works in England as a freelancer for many years now, but alongside of that, Sean was the co-director and founder of Animex International Festival of Animation and Games in the UK. Here at the Academy of Art, Sean is the student lead for both the history of animation and the history of visual effects, where students can enjoy an exciting take on the contextual studies. Sean also oversees a wider program of studies in first year, working directly with undergraduates to hone their career path from day one. We also have Jess Madsen. So Jess is going to be joining us today. She works as a faculty member since 2015. She's a digital artist for the Academy. We're currently working as a composite lead. So she's worked on films such as Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy and others as well, just to name a few. We're going to have Becky Johnson. She's going to be joining us in our chat to answer questions and to talk to students. She works at the Academy as our career services manager and program manager in the animation department. Virginie Michel, she is an online 3D animation coordinator. She is going to be doing quite a bit of the presenting today. Virginie is an animation supervisor, animator, rigger, and professor of animation with over 20 years experience in the feature animation and visual effects, commercials, games for various different studios. So she's done quite a bit. She spent much of her career at Industrial Light and Magic in San Francisco, in addition to Lucasfilm Animation in Singapore and Sony Pictures ImagineWorks in Los Angeles. She was a technical animation supervisor on the Academy Award-winning animated film Rango, as well as sequence supervisor and character lead. Virginie also worked on a large variety of other films. So she's worked on films such as Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, The Hulk, Superman Returns, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So she has a really impressive background for us. And last but definitely not least, the director of 3D animation for our School of Animation and Visual Effects. Her name is Tate. She's going to be joining us as well. I'll be introducing her first up to say a few words, but a little bit about Catherine. She's been a VFX supervisor and or compositor for over 60 feature films and shorts, including Academy Award nominated features Beasts of the Southern Wild and Thebe. She was also on set and post-production VFX supervisor on Fruitvale Station, which is a movie I totally love, which won the audience and grand jury awards at the Sundance Film Festival in 2013. Catherine worked at Industrial Light and Magic for 10 years as a compositor and worked on dozens of different projects, including Star Wars and in Men in Black. Catherine has been a faculty member at the Academy of Art University for 15 years. Her collaborative studio-based classes at the Academy are called Studio X. They've been featured in the Wall Street Journal, East Bay Times, San Francisco Chronicle, KGO News, and other different local news channels. So she believes very strongly in real-world production environment for students to make sure that she's preparing them for the industry. So I know that's a lot, everybody, but I just want to make sure that you're familiar with the quality of our faculty, the backgrounds that they come from. So we're here to help. We're here to have a good time tonight. So let's try to participate and make sure that we get the most out of our event. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over step one to Catherine to say a few words. I'll be in the chat tonight. You'll hear from me later when we start wrapping up. So I hope everybody has a great night, and I'll see you all soon. Here you go, Catherine.
Hi, welcome everybody. We're thrilled to have you here tonight and to give you this workshop, this hands-on workshop with Virginie. We have a world-class faculty here at the Academy. We're very close to Pixar, and we run classes with them as instructors, just for one, and we have many other world-class faculty and part-time staff members all over the world. So we're really thrilled to do this workshop, and this is the first of many that we hope to be giving you. Our School of Animation and Visual Effects has a lot of different areas of focus, and tonight we're going to focus on animation. So without further ado, Virginie, we would love you to get started and explain what you're going to do tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to look at a character doing a parkour. And this is basically a character going through different obstacles before it gets to the end of the action. So I'm going to share my screen. And before we get to the full demonstration of the animation process, I wanted to present a video showing the animation breakdown we're going to follow. So the method of work we're going to use for this animation is called the pose to pose. And then basically we're going to create different key poses, and then we will get into more in-betweens to give, to add a little bit more details to the animation. This is a wonderful method of work. It's a great method to give a nice quality to your animation and in a very efficient way. But before we get to the animation, we need to do some preparation work. And animators are actors. And we like to do our own acting performances that we can observe to do the animation. And here I wanted to show you an example. This is from the film Soar. It was directed by Alice Tsu. She was the Academy Award Gold winner for Best Animated Film. And this is her thesis project that she created during her studies at the Academy of Art. And you can see the very specific performance of the animated character, and that comes from the observation that animators could do from their own acting performances. You can see a lot of details in the performances. Wonderful expressions and little shakings, very subtle motions. So for the parkour, I'm not to do my own acting performance because it's a quite difficult exercise. I actually went on YouTube. There is a lot of different video selection here. And we have professionals doing acting, those kind of parkour. They're called tracers. And here I found this great video. I really like it because the image is very clear. It's very clean. It's not too long. There is no motion blur, which is pretty rare. And I can see all the details of the pose, even on the fingers here. This is a really wonderful video. So now we can open Maya. So Maya is basically the software that many companies use to do animation works. And I built the set. It's a pretty simple set. I just didn't want to make something too heavy. Originally, I stayed pretty close to the set I could see from the video reference. But I went ahead and position my blocks in a certain way so I could give a great extension to my character and have a more dynamic animation. And then we have to pick a character. We have a great collection of characters at the Academy of Art. Some are more cartoony than some others. And the students can actually use those characters for their own short films, so they can really focus on the animation and they don't have to build their own models and their own rigs. We also have different creatures and different types of animals. We use all those creatures in our more advanced character animation classes. We also have built characters, our own characters at the Academy of Art. This is Eve, and this is Adam. We're starting to introduce them in our own courses. And we also have built this creature called Armstrong. It can stand on his 2 legs or on his 4 legs. We have different texture for it. And for the animation we demonstrating to do today, I choose Morpheus. It's a wonderful rig. It was created by Josh Burton. I really like it because we can give different shapes. It has wonderful controllers for the body and for the face. It also has different textures for the skin and for the eyes. So let's go ahead and have Morpheus here in our scene. Here Morpheus is in its default pose. It's called the T pose, mainly because it has a shape of a T. And I already positioned here the character in space. I use the main controller for this. I'm not going to animate this main controller here, because if I do, it will make the feet sliding as well as the hands. So to pose the character, I'm basically going to use the root controller here, which is located in the center of gravity of the body. And I'm going to then move the feet and then move the hands. It's always a good idea to understand a rig before we start animating a character and all the different options. Here for the hands, I'm going to use a IK mode. It's a really good option because it allows me to have the hands staying in the same place while actually I move the root controller. Here, if we go back to our video reference, this is exactly what we see. See, when the character jumps over that wall, the hands stay in the same position when actually the body moves forward. So that is going to help me to be very efficient in my animation process. Once we have our character, we can start defining our golden key poses. They basically poses that marks the extreme point of the action. Like here we have a great golden key. You can see this is when the tracer jumps over the wall. We have a really nice line of action. That's what we will call the C-shaped line of action, mainly because it has the shape of a C here. And there is another great one when the character is completely squashed when it lands on the wall. It's a beautiful pose too. And we have about 9, 10 golden key poses here on this action. So I'm going to go ahead and start posing my character. So what I did as well, I actually added a few more poses. One at the beginning of the action and one at the end of the action. You can see them here. I added those poses because if we look at the video reference, the action is kind of starting in the middle of the movement, and Also, there is no ending. And I really wanted to add that, to have a real beginning and a real ending. So for the first pose, I choose this one when the character is very proud, is looking at the parkour, and he feels very confident. And for the end pose, choose this one when the character has this winning pose and very happy for finishing this parkour successfully. When I do my own acting performance, I like to have a front view and a side view, so I can really see all the details of the pose. Like here, when I analyze the pose, there is this great arch line of action here. And I look at the position of the elbows, which is interesting. You can see the elbow is slightly forward compared to the position of the elbow and the wrist here. And then I look at my pose from the front view. I observe the feet, the way they are positioned, slightly separated from each other and slightly angled out. I look at also the hands here on the hips and the way my fingers are posed and the position of the shoulders, the head, the neck. And then I can go ahead and start building my first pose. I always like to start with the root controller here because it's a really quick way of seeing my line of action just by rotating this controller and slightly move it forward. And I go ahead and take my feet controller and try to translate them and put some rotations to angle them out like I saw it in the video reference in the pictures. And when I do that, it's starting to extend my legs. So I just need to translate it down a bit, my controller, to have my line of action back. Then I can go ahead and rotate the wrist, start to position the hands here. And then when I create a pose, I really like to look at it from all different kind of views. So I don't miss anything here. The elbow, it's not in the right place. So I just need to put it here. Something like that. I also like spend some times on the finger position. Here I have this great option in Morpheus, but you know, posing the fingers always take sometimes to do. But it's an important part of the posing here. Sometimes I spend more time posing the fingers than I spend time to pose the body. But it is a part of the pose. It's really important to give the time for those finger positions. Sometimes I see animation blocking and the fingers are not posed, and it's really not giving the full expression of the character. So here I went ahead and created all my golden key pose. So I spent about 5 minutes on this pose. Then you can see all the golden key poses. Here, this one was a little difficult to create, mainly because if you look at here, the chest is looking forward and as well as the head, but the feet are completely on the side. So I have to create like a twist along the torso. And here is the like this great extension of the body and my super squash pose when the character lands. It took some time to do all those poses, but I really wanted to create all those poses with a lot of details. Once we have created those golden key poses, we're going to add a new series of poses that we call the passing key poses. They are basically breakdown key poses, and what they do, they actually mark the arcs of the motion. Like here, for example, this is a nice section. You can see just going to clean up a bit my sheet here. You can see when the tracer goes from this jump all the way to the landing here, we have a path of motion that looks like an arc, something like this, right? And this pose, if we look at the center of gravity here, mark the arcs of this path of motion. So that this is a nice example of passing key pose. And we have a few like this. We have about 20 passing key poses. And I'm going to show you quickly all of them.
Hey, Virginie.
Yes?
Hey, we just had a couple questions about how do you adjust the camera angle when doing an animation, and maybe that's something you can answer later, or
yeah, when we film the animation, when it gets to the final process, is that what we're talking about? Usually when I work on poses, and this is a really good question, I use my perspective view to look at all those poses from different angles. And then when I'm going to film my animation in its last phase, I will create a brand new camera here in Maya that I will call ShotCam, for example. And this is the camera I will use to film my animation. I will put a few keys if I want the camera to move, or I just can leave it in the same place. But I never use the same camera between this process of posing, where I keep the default camera offered by Maya, and the final animation camera, well, the final animation that I want to film with my final camera. Is that answering the question? And I'm just going to go ahead and look at all those passing key poses. This area here was particularly difficult because the character is doing a full 360-degree rotation. And I needed to put a lot of poses to make sure this motion was clean and clear. It helped me out later on when I start to smooth out the animation. When I have done this first pass of golden keys and passing key poses, I like to do another pass, which I called the exaggeration pass. Usually we try to not stay too close to the video reference, because if we do, we end up doing something that we called rotoscoping. And in the early motion capture film, this is what we tend to do. And it wasn't giving enough life to the character, and we ended up having animation a little flat. I also wanted to have an animation a little bit more cartoony. So here, the blue character you see, this is the original poses that I created. You can see I stayed pretty close to my video reference if we go back to that section here. And in the exaggeration process, I really push the line of action here. See, it's nice arc all the way to the tip of the feet. And also I arched the hands to exaggerate this arched line of action. And here, this is another example of exaggeration. During the anticipation, the character is very squashed compared to the original pose. And it gave also a nice contrast of poses between anticipation here and the final pose, winning pose here. And that's a way also to give a little bit more energy to the animation. So now we can look at the result after posing all those golden key poses and passing key poses. And this is how the animation looks so far. So you can see we starting to have a pretty good view on our animation. So now what we see also is the character going directly from a pose to another, right? There is no smoothing, no interpolation in between. This is what we would call an animation in step mode. And we also would call this type of phase the blocking animation when we are in production. So it doesn't mean that the animation is quickly done or it's just a rough pass. It's just been that at this point, we have a great foundation for our animation with all those poses, and we are ready to go to the next phase. And the next phase will be timing. So let's go back here to our poses. So in order to have a good view on the timing, I need to switch from this step mode we just look at to what we call the spline mode. So I'm just going to select all my controllers and I'm going to go in the graph editor. So here you see a bunch of animation curves. You can see they are in steps. And look at the graph editor as a graphic representation of your animation. And those curves were created as I was keying all those poses. So I'm going to select all those curves and switch them to spline mode. Here we go. Now you can see all the curves are much smoother. And if we look at the result of this animation, this is how it looks. See, it's much smoother. So now I can see some issues about the timing here. I found my character going a little too fast here over that wall. And it is a little too slow here at the beginning when it's supposed to gain speed before it reaches the first wall. But at this point, you know, it's very easy to fix this because all the controllers are keyed at the same frame. And so I just select my series of keys here and I can move them around in my graph editor. And when I give more space between a series of key poses here, that means that I put more time in between. So that means that my motion is going to be slower. On the other hand, when I put a series of key poses closer to each other, that means that the timing is shorter and it's going to speed up my animation. And if we compare the timing, the way I originally had it and the new timing, there is quite a difference. So the character here in green represent the old timing, and the full shaded character represent the new timing. And you see here, there's a lot of difference at the beginning of the animation. So once the timing is done, we can look at more details in the animation. It is actually a good time to look at the overlapping and the arcs of the motion. The overlapping is basically the process of delaying some motion of parts of the body compared to other parts. I like to do that on the wrist, for example. I like to do some overlapping on the heads and on the neck, the head and the neck. Sometimes I do an overlapping along the back. It's an important process, the overlapping, because if we don't do it, we will have all those controllers key at the same time, and it will tend to create a motion that looks a little bit robotic. And once this pass is done, we can really focus on the in-between. So during the in-between phase, I'm going to go through my animation frame by frame. And you see here, there is some parts that doesn't look right because the hands go through the wall. So I'm going to fix this. I'm just also going to look at some transition between poses here. You see, woohoo, the arms are a little twisted. They're not in the right position. So I'll go ahead and reposition the controllers and the elbow controllers. And this is also a time when I'm going to key the controllers individually and not necessarily take all the controllers and key them all. The in-between is also a great phase to add additional little motions such as shaking or trembling, or when I have to add a lot of keyframes, like if a character is scared, I can add all those keyframes to make it shakes. Here, this video that shows a little bit of the process of those in between. So what you see here, all the characters in blue, represent all the key poses we have created originally. And also it's a good way to see the path of motion of the animation here. And when our full shaded character becomes red here in this video, that means that it reaches one of those poses. You can see here, we're going from one pose to another, looking at the transition frame by frame and fixing all those issues, adding some more subtle motion. And at this point, our animation is nearly done. What I like to do, we were talking about this earlier, I like to create my own cam shot and position it in a certain way so I can film my animation from its best view. So what I decided to do here, it's put an animation on my camera. It's really just 2 keyframes. I put one at the beginning, looking at the action from this angle. And then as the character go through the parkour, I put another key at the end of the animation with the camera looking at the character from this angle here. I also like to have a basic lighting. Here, if I show my lights, this is basically a key light, a bounce light, and a realm light. I like to put a shadow on my key light. I don't have to render this animation in Maya. We have a nice preview option where we can actually showing the shadows. We can show the shadows here, and you can see here in this what we call the play blast. And that will be the final animation. And this is the end of our demonstration. I'm going to stop the sharing here. So let me know if you have any question. We can go through some parts of these demonstrations.
Thank you, Virginie. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Sean.
That's excellent. Can I just have a moment to just let people know that actually Virginie is not in the country and that she is on the other side of the globe? And confess, what time is it right now in France, Virginie?
It's about 4:40 in the morning. It's okay.
It's okay, she said. That's how diligent your faculty here at the School of Animation truly is. We'll get up in the middle of the night to show you this stuff. Thank you so much. Look at how much praise you're getting now.
We would
You're
love
very
you to
welcome.
ask some questions. If you guys have specific questions about what she just went through, please ask them now.
I also saw a lot of comments about Maya being very scary.
Yeah, no, this is true. I mean, Maya is a really complex tool. There's a lot of options in Maya, and there is also many ways to do the same kind of process. But it's a very powerful tool. And we can do so much with Maya. But you know, for the animation, it's a small section of Maya. You know, once we get around all the different menus of options, we can get around Maya pretty quickly.
And I say that we're pretty good at teaching it, and we understand how intimidating it can be. So, you know, we have several classes that you use it with, and like Virginie said, it's when you usually use it for a specific set of tools for what you're doing. So if you break it down, you know, that's it, you know, we're good at teaching it. Virginie, someone just asked what classes you teach.
Oh, so I mainly teach online, and I teach a beginner class where we introduce animation with different type of characters, and we have a mid-level class where we're starting to look at walk cycles and more complex acting performance classes. We're starting to introduce dialogue as well. And I also teach a more advanced class where we focus a little bit more on creatures and animals. We do a great mini sequence with animals doing some different actions. I teach also a full class focusing on dialogues and facial performances. Also work with our master's degrees, working on their thesis films, going from the beginning all the way to the end before it is presented for their final review. I teach about 6 classes at the Academy.
Virginie, we got a really great question from Sandy, who was talking. Could you tell her a little bit about, or tell us all about, the collaborative nature of animation in a big studio?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in a company, when you work in production, there are different departments. And we have the modeling department, we have the rigging department, animation department, lighting, and special effects, compositing. And when we start the animation, we are given the characters as well as the set. And we also told how many days we have to animate a shot. We have very specific deadlines. And of course, it's really important to respect them because of all the departments that are involved in the creation of a film. And we usually meet with the supervisor or our lead animator or managers, and we are told what kind of action we want to see in the shot. We define every single details. And this is when the animators start to do their acting performance. It's also a good way to time the action during the acting performance, because in animation, we always feel like we don't have enough time to put all this action in one shot. We want more frames, but we don't have more frames. When we told now in this shot is 50 frames and that's it. Well, then we have to make it happen in 50 frames, because if everyone start to add frames in their shots, we will go from a 90 minutes film to a 5 hours movies. Believe me, it's really easy to do that. So we have to figure out to fit the action in those specific frame range we are given. And often we work with the other animators. You know, we're a team, and sometimes doing our own acting performance all by ourselves, it can be a little bit difficult. Sometimes we need also a little bit of inspiration, and sometimes we have shots with several characters. So, you know, we ask our friends, it's like, hey, can you help me out doing these shots? And you will be this character, will be this one. And we spend actually some time filming our video reference. We at ILM, it was great because we had a room just for this, filming our video reference. It was a room with a lot of mirrors all around. We had the camera set up already, a computer, so we could transfer easily the videos to the computers and then have the videos in our own computers. And yeah, it's a really fun process. It's actually my favorite time in the animation process, filming the reference, because this is when really get into the characters. And it's fun to work with the other animators because then after that we're in front of our computers working hard. We don't talk to anybody, and we're just focusing on the work.
That's great. That's a really great answer. Another question that I think a lot of people would be interested in is from Jay Colby, who's asking, I know you've got this amazing experience with features and with VFX animation, but do you have any insight on the differences between animating for games and animating for movies?
Yeah, it's a good question too. Well, something to know is the time we have for those different productions. So when we work on the film, it's usually a few years of work. And usually we say that in animation, we are expected to animate about 5 seconds of animation per week, right? That's a pretty good time to focus on the animation, but that is because we give so much details. And also remember that a film we're going to see in a big screen, well, still today, and we really spend a good time to on the emotions and the personality of each characters, and then we really focusing on the subtle motion, dialogues, and facial expressions. In games, or even in a TV series, the turnaround for production is a little bit faster. And we often say that animators need to do between 20 and 30 seconds of animation per week. So the time is shorter. So we tend to go a little bit faster in the production time, and it doesn't give us as much time to focus on the details. That now being said, in a lot of production today, we use motion capture. So now motion capture, it doesn't give a final result for the motion. We always have animators retouching the motion, especially adding facial expressions, because motion capture is not really good at that yet. And adding finger poses, and doing all those different things in the animation. But yeah, mainly the difference is the production time and that we have to create those different products. Yeah.
And also games tends to use more cycling of animation. Do you want to explain that? Like what that means, like the cycling?
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Catherine. Yeah, in games, well, in animation, we do a lot of what we call walk cycles, or we also have what we call idles, which is a little action that we're going to cycle. And we use them a lot in games. Like you see the character doing an action and then it runs. That's the run cycle, boom. And then we do another specific action. But those action can be like if the character is on, like a fight mode, that will be the same idle motion that we're going to use over and over in different parts of the game. And this is why also when we teach animation in our courses at the Academy, we spend a good time learning how to do animation cycles. There is a very specific way to do that. Method of work I didn't talk too much about. This is called layering animation, and it's a very efficient way to create cycles. But it's important to know how to do them because of games, and also for films. When we have a shot with a crowd of characters walking in the background, we will use those cycles.
It's a great answer. Virginie, you've already mentioned it, but motion capture, performance capture. A question from Tommy, who's in my history class. Hey, Tommy, how are you doing? So you've heard that some people aren't fans of motion capture. Where do you stand on the great keyframe animation to performance capture debate?
Well, you know, we have to look at motion capture as a tool. This is a new tool for animation. This is actually, I do like motion capture. I'm very impressed of what we can do today with motion capture. There is a film that came out about 2 years ago, The Revenge of the Planet of the Apes, something like this, and it used motion capture extensively in all shots. And most of the result we see from motion capture is actually like the motion, the animation we see in the shot comes directly from motion capture. It's very impressive. And but the thing is, when you look the credits of the films, you still see 50 animators that works on the film, right? So that means that motion capture doesn't do it all. But you know, I think we need to adapt and then to really use the tools of today's. Motion capture is becoming an amazing tool, and it's the technology is getting better and better, and well, let's use it. If it makes the production faster, it's going to be used. And we just need to learn how to work with motion capture. What do the animators do to make this motion capture data better? And not everything can be motion captured. You know, at some point, some creatures, we're trying to motion capture a horse or, you know, a very specific weird creature. It's going to be very difficult to do motion capture on that. So there is still a lot of part of a shot of the animation we will have to do by keyframes. So there is no worries about this. And but we actually teach a class on motion capture. And teaching our students how to take a motion capture data and how to fix it to make it look great, and also adding weight to the character, because something that motion capture tends to not do, it's putting weight on our characters. Characters feels light and a little bit mechanical. So the job of the animator is to look at all those motion capture animation curves and push them to a certain way, so we have more weight and a more expressive and character animation. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions coming in right now? Let's see. We've got a lot of questions that are in a similar ilk about what type of professional practices would you advocate to an animator to get into the business? Obviously, being great in terms of performance, not being afraid to perform and actually put yourself on film and work from reference, understand the software. But is there anything else that you might throw into the mix that would give our guys here in the chat pod some food for thought?
Actually, you mentioned it all, Sean. You know, the acting performance is a great actually example. You know, doing animation, we were lucky at Industrial Light and Magic. We actually had some acting classes, and that was really helpful. Because you need to learn how to be a character. You need to learn how to express emotions. And there is a lot of tricks in acting that you learn to get into the character and be somebody else than ourselves. I also, when I was at Sony ImageWorks, I had mime classes. And this is really interesting. Yeah, because the body expression is quite different. It's a different approach compared to acting classes. And I do encourage all animators to follow acting classes, mime classes, and then know how to move with our own body. And that is quite important. If we can do that, that's a great idea. We actually have an acting class, I think, at the Academy of Arts, an excellent class where actually we are learning how to be like it's acting for animators. It's very specific. It's a really good class. Yeah, I can't think about another very specific aspect. But also, you know, in animation, I mean, don't hesitate to try different kind of productions. You know, working games, working commercials, which can be very interesting commercials because the production is really fast. We have to deliver shot quickly, and that teach us how to be efficient. And efficiency, being efficient in production is important. And when I was talking about the rig options and then making sure we understand the rig of our character, that is about efficiency. You know, we always have just a few days to create a shot, so we need to learn how to do great piece of animation in a very efficient way. You know, I also encourage animators to know a little bit about rigging. This is not a bad knowledge to have because when we are animators, we use rigs, and sometimes we need to talk to our rigging departments, and if we want a specific options, this is also helpful to understand the complexity of rigging for better communication and understand if things are possible or not possible. I actually had to learn rigging along the way when I started to supervise, and I found it fascinating. Rigging is it's technical. It uses a different part of your brain, but it's pretty neat and really helped me to better understand the way we can make a character move with all those different rigging technical process behind the scene.
Another great answer. Thank you so much, Virginie.
You're very welcome.
A lot of the questions are coming through in terms of what we do with the first year program to really kind of give everyone the foundation of expertise that they need to get to where Virginie is at. So just to clarify on that, whenever any students come into the School of Animation, they're following a really set and very important series of classes that really help with the foundations of understanding analysis of form, understanding sketching for communication in really accomplished ways. And then before we get you into animation, before we get you into the process of understanding what animation, modeling, VFX really is, you're doing the history class with me, so you're putting everything into great context. You know where the skill bases come in, you know the rich history that everything is kind of working from. And then your animation classes from the second semester on give you that foundation in applying everything you've looked at from your drawing, from your sketching classes directly to the animation performance. And that's really unique to us. I mean, we're really keen to ensure that everyone understands that, just as Virginie has said, you might not think, you might want to be an animator, but you might never have thought yourself as an actor. Well, the two, as we're seeing tonight, are completely and intrinsically linked together. So we want to really push the boundaries on that one, because I think a lot of people think that animation can be done just sitting in a chair with a computer. And you can get something that you might call animation, but it may not be exactly what you need it to be to get into this industry. So we are there to help you every step of the way, actually kind of tackle something of those aspects. And by the time you get into the second year program, then you're fully integrated into the animation program and learning acting for animation. You're learning how to get more savvy with the software. We're bringing you into some modeling and rigging classes, just as Virginie said, because it's so important to bring that in. And then from there on in, third year on, is when you're concentrating entirely on being a character animator. So I hope that kind of answers a few. We've had a few questions that were asking very similar aspects of how to get into what to expect, I think, in that first year. So as first year coordinator, I'll be there to kind of guide you through all of that. So, and I'll put my email up so that you've got it and you can always pick up this conversation with me after the workshop.
I wanted to address a couple questions that came up. The first one I saw was, how do we get our work in front of industry professionals? And that's an easy answer, because we have people who are currently working in the industry who are teaching these classes. In fact, we have a special workshop on this in a couple weeks with a couple of animators from Pixar who will be reviewing some portfolio work. We also have industry visitors that come and review portfolios, such as Blue Sky and DreamWorks. And we also have a spring show where we bring industry professionals to look at your work look at the work for graduating students. So there's really no way it's there. You will be presenting your work to industry professionals, whether they're your instructors who are currently working in studios, whether our staff members who have, collectively hundreds of years of experience working in studios. So we're really set up well. And the second question I wanted to answer was about Studio X, because that's near and dear to my heart. We have a very unique and established studio learning environment for advanced students. And that basically is, if you saw the movie Soar, that was a Studio X project. So we had an MFA student, Alice. She was the director and she was an animator, but we actually ran it through our student-based studio classes that are run by professionals. So you have mentors in the class helping you through, but we're collectively using all of the talent of the student body and of the instructors to create something bigger than just what one person can create. And we're also giving you really key information about what it's like to work in a pipeline, because if you've ever sat at, through the credits at the end of the movie, it takes an army, and you can see that. And if you've actually gotten to the visual effects and animation portion of the credits, you'll see that there could be hundreds of people on there. So we want, at the Academy, we really want you to understand that we want you to be in a real world environment, so that when you get out of the school, that you're not going to be completely surprised that you're going to be automatically working with other people. And I also wanted to ask Virginie, in terms of professional practices, how does behavior and networking and just being nice, how is that part of, and communicating well, how is that part of being a good artist in a studio?
In terms of how do we work in the studio and then communicate with the others?
Yeah, I just wanted you to mention that a lot of this work is collaborative, and you have to work with other people.
Yeah.
And what is that like? And how can you train yourself to be better at communicating, I know at the Academy we teach these skills, but I just wanted to mention that as part of the process of becoming a professional is there that behaviors involved. Pixar, one of their famous quotes is that, if they just want to like you, they have to like you to hire you. So, you have to be somebody that they, feel would be work well in a team, sort of like that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In a studio, we are all in production mode. Things need to happen constantly. And when, something to keep in mind, we always work for somebody's project. We work for a director, for somebody who has a vision about what the result of the film, of the game, or the TV series is going to be. And our jobs as artists in a studio or in Studio X, when we work on all those films, it's to deliver what the director's view is. And this is the work we do. It's not about what we want to do and how we see the animation or the shot. It's about what the director sees and what he wants to see. So we work with a pretty big team, and we have producers, we have managers, we have coordinators, we have animation supervisors and leads, and we all work together to create just one shot and finally to look like and to reach the vision of this director. And it's really important to communicate between departments and make sure we all going in the same direction. You know, we take a shot from a department, we work on the shot, and we give it to another department. And we want to make sure that what we deliver and give to the next department is working well and it's not all strange. And you know, sometimes in the animation we kind of cheat a bit because we have this camera view, and it's like, nobody's going to see that actually the foot is not in the right position. Well, yes, we will. When the lighting departments take that shot, it's like, well, that's strange. The shadow is not doing what I was expecting to do. Well, because the foot is not in the right position. So we work all together, and we actually have dailies, what we call dailies, every morning. And we have that also in Studio X. Every day we look at the shots, and the director is here, the producer is here, and give comments about the shots and what needs to be fixed. Yeah, and then we take notes. Like everybody has its little block notes, and we take notes of all the comments, and then we go back to our desk and we just apply those notes. And the day after, we'll show the shots again, making sure we reach all the notes. And if sometimes the notes are not clear, well, you know, we just talk to our leads, and she or he is going to re-explain the notes. We're never alone, really. In a production, we each time there is a question, a problem, there is always somebody we can talk to, and will help us out in different areas.
Hey, I have a question for the faculty. So anybody like Catherine, Becky, Sean, Jess, Virginie, anybody want to answer this? But, you know, as we're in shelter in place right now, for safety purposes, pretty much everybody is teaching their courses online or in some version of Zoom or traditional on-site. Is just, you know, everything's modified right now for safety. I tend to find that students that are taking courses online are very hesitant because they feel that they're not going to get the interaction. They're not going to be working on portfolio work. They're not going to be getting the feedback. So if anybody wants to maybe take the wheel and speak to that, but what is it that we're doing to make sure that not only are our online courses successful normally, but what are we doing right now to even ensure that these students are basically getting the training and feedback that they're looking for?
Can I start? So myself and Virginie are exclusive online faculty here at the Academy of Art, and have been for many years. And so for us, the transition that we've had to virtual classes, I'll be honest, I think it's been pretty easy for us because we've adjusted our workflow and our teaching methods to the online community. The thing that has been remarkable is the way that we as a collective school, on-site faculty and online, have come together as one unit. And there is no distinct difference now between any of us in the way that we do things. We're running great classes online and have been for nearly 20 years now, way ahead of the curve of other universities. So we've got that tradition to bring to the table. But now that we're all working on Zoom, just as you can see, and just as you guys all know, it's just brought an entirely new dynamic to the way that we teach animation, visual effects, CG modeling. Any aspect of what we do, any aspect of the pipeline can be taught in this way. And one of the actual, I think, very unexpected joys of this unbelievably difficult time has been the fact that as a community, we've been able to bring students who we feel might have previously had some issues potentially with feeling like they connected with the school, bringing them into the overall community that is the School of Animation and the Academy of Art in a really proactive way. And it's just broken so many barriers for us. I think my fellow faculty will agree with that. So there is no disadvantage whatsoever to either continuing to study with us at this time or indeed joining from the get-go with us, because we have made that transition work, and we will continue to for as long as this is in place. And hopefully, you know, we would love it to not be for much longer, but we have got your back on this. We know how to do this extremely well. So would anyone like to add anything to that?
Sure, I'll just add that, you know, we've actually had Zoom classes with Zoom students for several years, and we've been, you know, really successful in seeing folks blossom with that, the Zoom experience, and we're really good at it. So for us to, I mean, it's not even hard to say it was a transition, because I felt that we did it so well, and so seamlessly. And what it's also done, it's an, you know, again, it's a very, very difficult time. But for us as a university and our faculty members, we've basically banded together, and we're trying to figure out how to utilize the things that we're learning, the tools that we're using, and the access to our labs, how we want to bring that forward even to when we're back on campus, so that anybody in the world could have access to the same tools, software, equipment, for example, whether you're on site or online. And also, you know, having the Zoom classes is another way of learning that now online students can participate in. So, you know, as a school, I'd say we've gotten better, and our attendance has been better than it's ever been. So we feel really, really proud that the students have been open to a little bit of a change, and that the faculty that and the school, you know, on a higher level, we're all just really just trying to make us the best school in the world, and to continue to change the way we teach based on the technology and the stuff we're learning. So that, you know, we're gonna keep bringing that forward. So that's what we're working on this year, to bring, like, say, our labs to the online students, maybe by next year, maybe by January. We're going to have tech support for specific stuff like software for online students. So if you're a student, you're struggling with Maya, we can give you a Zoom number with lab tech support standing by, and you can actually get more help with your assignments. We're also incorporating a lot more Zoom sessions in our strictly online classes, where you can have your instructor there live, but we'll record it. So if you have questions about an assignment or anything and you want face-to-face time, you can show up at that time. And if you can't make it, then you can look at the video, and, you know, chances are there's some things in there that you can benefit from. So, you know, we're embracing this tragedy, as you want to call it, to try to give you a better experience overall. And we're really happy with how it's been going. And I think that we're doing it better, or as well as anybody else, any other university. And I'll even say better because I'm biased, but I feel like I can't even call it a transition. I feel like it's more of an adaptation, you know, to the times, and that a lot of these things are going to continue to be offered even when the pandemic is over.
I got another question for the faculty, if possible. So students, I didn't tell them I was going to ask these questions, so their answers are genuine. They haven't even had a chance to think about this. So another thing that I tend to find is there's probably people out there that are on this webinar right now, and they're like, can I really make this a career? Like, how did you get started? How did you make the decision to say, I'm going to follow this? Somebody in the chat I saw said, do you enjoy doing this type of work? And my answer back was saying, there's the only reason you would get into this. You're probably stressed out like any other job. There's probably a ton of different things that are going on in your life all the time, but it's the difference of doing something that you love versus like just surviving at a job. So my question for any of you that want to take this is, how did you make that decision to pursue this as your career, and what gave you that confidence to stick with it when maybe times were tough?
You know, I'm going to ask Jessica to answer that, because Jessica was a student here at the Academy. And so I think she can give you an experience based on something that might be similar to what you're going through.
Yeah. So basically for me, I always knew that I wanted to do something with film. And I actually got a first bachelor's in film studies. And I'm originally from Rhode Island, from the other side of the country. And I moved out to California because that's where movies are made, right? That's where you go when you get a film degree. And when I got out here, I realized I wanted to be in the post-production phase of it, and that visual effects and computer graphics was much more exciting to me. It just made me think in ways that I hadn't thought of solving problems before, and that really excited me. So I went to the academy, and I actually got a second bachelor's degree in visual effects. And when I graduated through the academy, I was able to go to Spring Show, which is for graduating seniors. It's where you get to present your work to industry professionals. I got a couple interviews. Nothing really turned out from that, but I kept applying. And honestly, I got my first job out of school about 3 months after. And I worked pretty consistently for about 8 years down in Los Angeles on Marvel films, pretty much exclusively at the studio that I worked at. And yeah, there were times where it was 12-hour days, 16-hour days, you know, long shifts. But at the end of the day, I knew that what I was doing was fulfilling and it was artistically creative. And I liked what I did. I liked the people I worked with. When you're on productions like that and you're working with people for all those hours, you become a family and you get to rely on each other in ways that you never thought that you could rely on coworkers, and you lift each other up. And so it's really a unique industry in that way. I don't know how many other industries really get that kind of camaraderie from everybody kind of just in it at the same time. So it's pretty amazing. And I did leave Los Angeles and I came up to San Francisco, and I actually now live in Sacramento. But I love teaching, and I love being able to help you guys put together the best portfolio. And I love reaching out to my friends that are all still working at studios and saying, hey, what's going on? Who's hiring? What are you guys looking for? Hey, do you want to come and talk to my class for a little bit? Or I have some students that have some questions. Let me get your take on it. It's all part of networking with all these people. And that's what you're getting at the academy. I mean, when we leave the industry to come and teach, we never really leave the industry. We're all still friends, and we're all still considered family with a lot of these people that we went through production with. And these are people that we can call on and say, hey, what's the pulse of the industry? What's going on? You know, what should I tell students that are looking to get into this? Or, you know, what's going on over here? So it's all super useful, and it is unique for us especially. And especially our location. San Francisco is a super cool city. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed it moving from the East Coast. But we have Pixar, we have Tippett, we have ILM, all here. And we also have Silicon Valley, which I know it's not the first thing that comes to mind with visual effects and animation, but truthfully, a lot of the tech companies use our students as well and hire them. So Facebook and Google, and Apple, they all have their own in-house animation and media departments. So the industry is a lot bigger than just films and commercials. And I think that we really help prepare our students to work in a multitude of industries that all have this creative and computer component to them. That's my spiel.
Yeah, something to keep in mind. I mean, it's a blooming industry. As you said, there's so much going on in animation and effects everywhere. You can see it used, and there are so many companies today all over the world. In the US, in London, they have very famous companies doing those great special effects films. All over Europe, in Canada, and you know, there's a lot of work to do, a lot of jobs that are opening, and we're lucky at the Academy of Art. We have wonderful people going to guide you and help you with all those offers that you can find. And then Spring Show is a perfect example to attend, because we have recruiters from famous companies coming then and looking at the work, at the portfolio. And this is a very exceptional time. And I found it that our students is extremely lucky to be able to meet with the recruiters and be able to share their work. So yeah, it's
Also, another thing that's kind of interesting is now all of the studios, including Pixar, ILM, DreamWorks, they are now working remotely with most of their staff. So in some ways, us using the same technology and tools that these studios are using, you're actually learning when we're on, how you're working in the same way they are. And we're actually consulting with these studios and finding out this is how we're solving our remote issues. We're talking to our contacts in the studios and finding out how are they getting all this work through, and how are they doing it securely. And so we're actually on it, and we're working with these studios so that we can mirror the same environments here, at the Academy virtually. And the fact that now people will be set up to work virtually, to me, this is so exciting in terms of where you may not have to move across the world to do your work. So instead of moving to Vancouver or Australia, maybe what will happen is you'll be able to work from France, like Virginie is, and then you're even being trained, to work in the same way that they are at the studios.
Can I add? There's a question, a really interesting question that I'm sure is on the minds of plenty of people. And Catherine, you've certainly gone a way to answer that. But how is the industry looking during COVID-19? Are they still hiring? Are there massive layoffs like other industries? Just as Catherine said, I mean, the fact that the studios en masse have moved to this extraordinary and working remote pipeline. I'm down here in LA. I was 16 years up in San Francisco, but I moved down to LA last year, and I've reacquainted myself with all of those great industry friends that I had that I would never see once they moved to Southern California. And the news is really good. I mean, the fact that there has been this move to get everyone set up with machines at home, with remote labs of their own, working on their own servers, because of course the security aspect is so important, but also the hardware that these studios have got. I mean, it's still cranking away. There's been slight changes to release schedules just based on the fact that no one really knows when the movie theaters are going to be open and bustling again. And the idea of that is extremely scary to a lot of people, the industry included. But by and large, this industry has adapted in a really positive way. And I hear reports from my friends in the studio that actually, in terms of productivity, this has not affected, by and large, a lot of the major departments in a lot of the major studios. So this is an industry that has adapted to this in a really proactive way. It's made means to ensure that the artists set up with what they need to continue their shots, their sequences, to work in the same way as Virginie does in France and do such amazing things remotely. And we can hope that whereas this industry used to be extremely difficult, and we had this situation that a lot of our graduating students would have to move across the world based on where the productions were happening, based entirely on where things like tax breaks were for the industry, because of course they need to save as much money as they can and actually follow the incentives. So therefore, it was really difficult to bring up a family, to own a place, to do all of those things that we kind of take for granted and are told that it's a major part of growing up. And I was talking to some graduates that left the academy to work in a number of key companies, and they've been in the industry for 10 years. And they're actually looking at this in a very positive way and saying, you know, I'm based here, I'm working for this company that's now 400 miles away, and I'm going to buy a house. And the fact that they can put down roots now is a really great thing. So, you know, we can hope that there's going to be a really positive change in the industry based on this extraordinary pandemic. And this is certainly one industry that I know has adapted successfully to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of animation and computer generated, I mean, you don't have to, nobody needs to touch or breathe on each other. Okay, so you know, I see live action has been hit pretty hard, but the animation industry and animated films actually is a pretty good way to work without, you know, to work safely, because everybody can work at home, you know, safely. I also wanted to bring up our art experience program for any of you high schoolers out there. Hector, you should hit him up to get the info, but we have a blossoming art experience program in animation. We've got brand new classes, and we were running, I'd say 20 classes at least this summer, and we're going to continue to run them, you know, all year round for all over the world. And that's a really good way to get started, you know, and get some of the skills and feel comfortable and confident whether this is what you want to do or not. And we're super excited to have unrolled. We're rolling out, I think, over the next 6 months online. We're going to have hopefully, you know, several of them, but also we'll be running them on Zoom. So if you're a high school student, you might want to consider, they're free of charge. So you might want to just sign up and see if it's, you know, if you like this stuff.
There was a question that I think one or two of us could probably answer, talking about how, who was it now? Let me just see. Yeah, it was Kristen. I think you asked this a couple of times, so thanks for your patience. How likely is it to get into a bigger studio right out of AAU? Could anyone pick that up?
Well, you know, it's all about putting together a really good demo reel. And, you know, all the courses we have at the Academy, we basically, all the assignments and all the different exercise we do following our courses are shots you can use in your demo reel. I mean, we have the acting shots, we have the cycles, and all the things we take in our students do in our assignments. And after the whole courses of following the courses, you can really put a great demo reel. And it's about 1.5 minutes, right? And then you show the best, your best work. And you know, if you have a great demo reel, I think Pixar offers internships, many companies do, and it's a great time to send your demo reel and try to get in. And sometimes it's a matter of timing as well. You'll see that companies, there's times when they hire a lot and at some point they don't. And so, you know, never hesitate to send your demo reel often. You know, just it's not like, okay, I'd already sent it last year and that's it. No. When you want to really work at a specific company, you send your demo reel like January and again in April and again in, you know, in October. Just don't hesitate. And at some point you will reach the good timing when actually this company hires. But yeah, I've seen demo reels from our students. It's like amazing. And yeah, and many of our students get internships at Pixar right after schools. And as you mentioned, Jess, right after 3 months, you were able to really get into the type of work you wanted to pursue. So everything is possible. But yeah, we have to work hard. You have to really push the work you're doing on all your courses. We also have a master's degree where you can create your own film, your own short film. And we really help you to put it out there in all the different festivals, to be viewed, to be seen by many, many people. And the chances to get hired if you have this wonderful film in a company such as Pixar, LM, Sony are pretty high. But yeah, it's all about the quality of your work. But that's hard work, but it's all possible, of course. And I think we have many examples of our students being able to get to their dream companies after school. But we are always here to look at your portfolio. We have portfolio classes actually, and we spend a full semester looking at the portfolio, helping you out doing your resume and write your cover letters. Be ready to submit your work for those companies. So we're really there to help you and push you to have everything ready to apply to different companies.
One last thing I want to mention is that, the way our program is set up for the undergrads, we try to get you exposed to give you tastes of all the different areas of animation and visual effects. So that, because a lot of times you might think you want to do one thing and you end up doing another. So, that's kind of, our program is sort of set up to help you find your passion. And if you have a passion for something, and then you're going to put more of your heart and soul into it. And it takes heart and soul to do this work well, right? So you have to love it. You have to find and do what you love. And if you put your whole heart into it, and, with a lot of help from mentors, and, we feel that our program works really well if you're on board.
I think that's a really, really good point. I think there's plenty of students that we see that have the talent, and I think that's a major part of it. But it's the drive and it's the personality that I think will propel that into the next level. There's lots of talk about internships, and we know from experience that the guys that we know that have done really successful internships at studios like Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, Nickelodeon, they don't leave. they get that if there's a job that's coming up and they're an integral part of the studio and they've impressed the right people in the right ways, they just don't want to let them go. So they'll open positions. They'll maybe think about asking them to consider other areas if there isn't a position available in what they came to do, but they really want them on staff and they want to encourage that talent. And it's really heartening for us as educators whenever we go to those studios, whenever we reach out to those same people, just how incredible a journey they're on, based on the fact that they took this internship, they had what it took to get in the door. But that's only one part of it, because obviously when they were in the studio, they became an integral part of that community, of that place. And we really encourage that as a school in everything we do, even in our assignments, from those small steps through to Studio X, enabling you to think about your education, your degree as your industry calling card, So that's something that's, I think, makes us a very unique school on the landscape of animation training.
There was a question about the difference between an MA and an MFA. I would say, well, the MA is a shorter program and the MFA requires you to do a thesis. So that thesis can be either your own film. We also have thesis some of the visual effects students have thesis projects through Studio X. So they work for the studio, our internal studio, where they work on feature films, both animated and live action visual effects. And they have a set of deliverables that are large enough to be a thesis project. They become leads, they work with clients, they work with artists, and that's their thesis project. The MA does not have a thesis project. In terms of what an MFA gives you and an MA gives you, I think it varies from country to country, but the MFA is generally more prestigious, and it allows you to teach in universities. The MA is pretty short, so it's a little more difficult to get the full grasp of the craft if you have no experience coming in. We don't prevent you from coming in, but just saying the MA is pretty accelerated. It's only it's a short amount of time. But if you come in with some skills, it might work out for you. I mean, it's very unique to who you are, and we try to give you all the information about both of them. The good thing is, if you come in as an MA, you can use those credits and switch to an MFA. So it's not like you have to throw those out.
Here's an interesting question that's come up a couple of times. The work-family balance for people in our industry. Virginie, I'm going to go to you for that one.
In terms of how the work is.
How tough is the family work balance for you as an animator?
Well, yeah, it's working in the industry. It can be long hours sometimes. There is this specific times in production when, because our deadlines for a film to come out, it doesn't change. Like when the film comes out, May 14th, that's it. That is not going to be pushed. And we know as an artist, when we work in a company, that maybe the last month of production is going to be a bit tough because we really have to. We always a little bit behind, and so we have to give a last push to make sure the film finish on time. But then that in production, obviously we have wonderful producers who are making sure that the full production of the film is not going to be hard on everybody for a year and a half. Usually it's we do have 8 hours of work, and if we have to come on the weekend, sometimes we do, and that's fine. We are all trying to make sure the production goes smoothly. But it really depends of the type of production you're working for, and but in general, it's pretty well managed, and it's not completely crazy. I know I heard stories in some companies, people work like all day and night. It's like, it never really happened to me. All those years, I always managed to do my 8 hours. And if I have to put a little push from time to time, it happens. But yeah, this is actually a very very exciting work, to tell the truth. Even if we have to work a little harder, sometimes it's great because we work in an entertaining industry, and I think the best reward when you work on a film or on the games or on a TV series, see your name in the credits. And it is where you bring your whole family in the movie theater, and it's like, yeah, look, there's my name here, and this is very exciting. To share that with your family. So now sometimes it's a little secret, you can't share everything, but it's such a joy to go to see all together with your children and your entire family, to see the movies and to see the work you have done on the big screen. So yeah, but nothing to worry about. It's not going to affect your family too much. Actually, it's great because you can share a bit, and even with your kids, when you work on the feature film. And I work on like on the Rango, and my daughter, I see some clips of the films, and it's like, wow, you work on that. It's like, wow, yeah, doing those little characters. She's very excited about it. Or even on games, if you work on this great game and you have your kids playing the game, that's pretty neat. You got to be a part of that game. Yeah.
I also think that setting boundaries, you could work, 15 hours if you want to, and nobody knows it. And, but I mean, I think that the way to go about it is, you can work really hard and it can be pretty intense, but like I remember at ILM, I sat next to this technical director, which is a very difficult job. It's like lighting and rendering, and it's pretty, and she was out the door every day at 5 o'clock and she was highly desired. Everybody wanted her on their show, but because she knew how to work efficiently and set up everything so that she could leave on time, it's in some ways having a family makes you more diligent to be efficient with the time you have. And that's something I think we try to teach at the Academy, is the efficiency of your workflow and of your day. Like, how are you approaching the work? Are you doing it in the most efficient way? Are you doing things procedurally where you can? Are you, just using your time well? And I think that we try to teach that.
And hey, Catherine, I would just add, because I'm not an animator, right? But I would tell you that how your work affects yourself or your family, it has really nothing to do with the field that you're in. Like, your kids are going to see you come home with your tie on if you're a lawyer. Your family's going to see you come home with scrubs on if you're a nurse or a doctor or a dentist. Yeah, Eli, if you're Batman, you might come home with your mask on every once in a while. So I really just think that the key is really just how you handle it and how you find that balance individually. There's people that I would just tell you are workaholics, and sometimes they drive themselves into the ground chasing and pursuing success or personal goals. There's other people that value family time and vacation or things of that nature. So I would tell you, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. But I don't think it has anything to do with being an animator. I think it just has to do with who you are and how you handle workloads individually, regardless of your program or major.
Yeah, Chris in the chat mentioned, it's about the passion and making sure that you're not doing something, that you're doing something that you truly enjoy doing, that is you, and that you find your passion, and that, sometimes when you're working, a day can go by and you don't even realize that the hours have been done because you're so much engaged in the work. And I can say that working in the entertainment industry, like, it's really fun. Like what Virginie said, it's great. And now with streaming, and there's so many, like she said, that our industry is booming right now because of all these different ways that people are viewing media and movies and TV and games. And to me, if you are the best at what you can do, at what you do, and if you put yourself heart and soul into it and you find your passion, then I think it would be really hard not to succeed. That's my opinion.
Hey, this is off topic, but I'm going to just go ahead and just shut down the chat real quick. There is no Luke, I am your father. It's just, I am your father. That's what they call a false memory. You've heard it said incorrectly so many times. Everybody remembers Luke, I am your father. But I see you guys battling in the chat, and the correct answer is, I am your father. So, no Luke. I had to just squash it. Yes, it's called the Mandela effect. Thank you for that one person out. There's a lot of things like, a lot of people remember Sinbad and Shazam. That movie never happened, but it was so many different things that you remember that never actually occurred. So interesting.
We're all big geeks here.
Yes, the Monopoly has a monocle, right? Everybody, the Monopoly man. and the Berenstein Bears. I love it. They're gonna go down a rabbit hole with this one tonight. So
Yeah, we're all geeks at heart, all of us at the Academy, I think.
we had a nerds know best. I love it. There you go. And Eugene, when it comes to 2D animation, I'm sure everybody here can speak to it. For the sake of time, send me an email and I'll connect with you and make sure that we go over it. All I would tell you is everybody here, it doesn't even matter if they're 3D or what they did in their career, they had to draw in the beginning. So if you want to go into 3D, you're going to have to learn the concepts of 2D. And if you want to go into 2D, you're going to stay on that type of a track. So hopefully that answers your question.
Hector, could we just clarify? We've had a couple of questions about how to watch this demonstration video.
Kathleen will go ahead and put in the link for us, and everybody there can follow that link. It's actually going to be a link that will send you a copy of the recording. So that's a great question, folks, for the recording. We send this link a dozen times towards the end. So if you miss it right now, we'll probably put it back in there for you all soon again as well. And I see some questions about how to apply. So I'm going to let the faculty continue on here for another minute or two for whatever they want to talk about. I'll go over how to apply, and then I'll also drop some of the links in here for you as well for anybody that has those questions I can see coming up. Anybody else, any panelists or faculty have anything else they want to add on about animation or tips, life tips? I mean, we're going deep tonight. So anything anybody want to cover?
I think actually I just wanted to add, I know we've talked a lot about networking and the industry, and definitely we have all those opportunities, but we also have these amazing student clubs. So there's Women in Animation and Tea Time Animation. And Tea Time has been around for at least 12 years, and it was started by students. They're alumni now. They're working in the industry. You know, they come back every week to bring in industry to do, you know, they have guest speakers, just mini lectures. They critique one another. So that is huge. It's your peers, it's people in the industry. And I just wanted to add that as well.
This might be a really good opportunity for us all to thank Virginie for her amazing demonstration tonight and for getting up in the middle of the night to do this.
You are very welcome. My pleasure. It was really fun. I'm glad I had this opportunity to give this demo, actually. So thank you. And thank you for everybody to be here. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks,
But
Virginie.
you know,
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Catherine.
I just wanted you guys to keep an eye out for future workshops from our department and other departments. So we're really excited about this series, and we're going to be bringing more good stuff for you. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you all. So hey, I know I see a lot of thank yous in the chat, but just once again, big thank you to Sean for being here tonight. Big thank you to Jess Madsen being here tonight. Becky Johnson's been helping so much in the chat. Virginie, awesome presentation. Thank you for going into all of those parkour sequences. I know that we could go on forever with a lot of stuff, but I appreciate you taking the time and also getting up at 4 in the morning in France. That's already like an accomplishment in itself. Catherine Tate, our director of the 3D animation School of Animation Visual Effects. Thank you so much for putting together this all-star team to be here. A couple of other people you didn't even know were there. Also, the one and only Kathleen, she organizes all of these rooms for us. So thank you always. Scott for helping us with our YouTube. Wakana's out there helping us with our marketing and hashtags. The great John Beeson and his mustache, always coordinating behind the scenes. So thank you all to the team out there. So But hey, without further ado, if you guys don't mind, if we're good to go, let me, I'll go ahead and wrap this up here for all the students and let them know what to do next. We feel like we're good to go on that? All right. So hey folks, so if you're out there still and you're listening, couple things that I want to do real quick. Before we get serious, I just want to go ahead and make sure that if you didn't see the links already, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop a few links for people to have. First thing I'm going to drop is if you want to learn more about how to be an online student, if you're interested in how online works, what we're actually going to be doing is demonstrating online classes, and we're going to show student work. Many of that stuff is animation and video game development work, which I think is really cool and translates well. But if you want to just see what I would call progression, it's examples of where a student starts and some of the stuff they